Just thought maybe there was a change in the.
Did you get my email, Pete, that I was running late?
6:30 and a little after.
I guess not. Since I'm here.
Okay.
We all can stand for the pledge. Katie, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of silence for the men and women in the armed forces, our first responders, those fighting the good fight in the Ukraine, and those in the conflict in the Middle East. Thank you.
Oh, you want Creed?
Katie?
Creed? America's Creed, William Tyler Page. I believe the United States of America is a government of the people, by the people, for the people, whose just powers are derived from the consent of the governed, a democracy and a republic, a sovereign nation of many sovereign states, a perfect union, one and inseparable, established upon those principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity, for which American patriots sacrificed their lives and fortunes. I therefore believe it is my duty to my country to love it, to support its Constitution, to obey its laws, to respect its flag, and to defend it against all enemies.
And do we have anybody from the public side? No.
Oh, welcome.
Randy's limping. Did you leave yesterday to get here?
Doing great.
Hey, Randy. Randy, if you want to sit over there, it's a better chair. Oh. Then
Yeah, good idea.
little chair. All right.
All right, so Mike Sinello, 111 Willow Springs. So I'd like to speak towards two parts of the rules that are being proposed. See if we can get to two of them. First, I think Rule 15 should be struck entirely. If the members of this elected body have even one duty to the electors, it's to allow the electors to face them when doing the thing they were elected to do in service to the duties of the town council. For the same reason, I would offer in law that a defendant has a due right to face both his witnesses and his accusers. It is a right of the electors to face those people that they've elected, especially when it comes to the extension of the legislative body, which is the electors, and in this case, their representatives, the town council. This is the single most important element of consent of the governed once the election has passed. It's an incomparable dereliction of duty to allow for the participation in these meetings by councilmen by any means other than in person. The sole and stated reason electronic participation was first allowed was because certain demands of this body coming in from Hartford during COVID made it all but impossible to carry out the due duties of this body without the availability of an electronic or virtual means of participation. I think we can all agree those conditions have long since passed. And to that effect, since I've laid out the argument on principle, I really don't care about arguments as a matter of convenience. This is a duty that the council has to face the electors. This is a right of the electors to face the people that they elected when it comes to this body. And to that effect, I did put out a poll on Facebook, and I realized the problem was with polls on Facebook, and I realized that the sample size isn't what I would prefer it to be at 72, but for the folks watching at home, I'll have to just explain what's on the overhead projector right now. But we're looking at as soon as this bulb warms up, an 84 to 16 margin, 84% to 16 margin. Again, I understand the flaws of a Facebook poll. I understand the flaws of sampling of this small. But if 73 to 27 and 71 to 29 are statement results. That to me is a fairly statement result within the confines and limitations of a Facebook poll. So I've laid out the argument on principle, and it is not popular among the populace. The way this is phrased is, should it be allowed or totally disallowed? Some people did chime in and say that there might be circumstances where there should be limitations at least put on it, but that's the entire voting population in terms of what's allowed. Everyone else, that whole 84%, is get rid of it entirely. So I think Rule 15 should be struck from the rules in its entirety. So the second thing I would like to propose in terms of the rules is that rules, is in regard to Rule 7, I propose the first sentence be amended as follows. Quote, "The presiding officer shall adjourn the meeting no later than 9:00 p.m. unless the town council extends the meeting by unanimous vote and only under extraordinary exigent circumstances," end quote. Be happy to hand that in. The singular reason for these meetings is to conduct the business of the town council, and that's it. This is one of the most important tenets of Robert's rules, and needlessly dragging the meeting on should absolutely not be tolerated. No one in here is paid by the hour, and that's especially true of the electors, whose right to view these meetings is at least abused when Gish Gallop is allowed to rule the night, as it has come to so constantly be. An 8-item agenda in which 6 of the items are recitations of various oaths, public comment, and the acceptance of donations should absolutely not take until 9:45 p.m., as it did just a few weeks ago. Robert's rules have been adopted for decades in this body, and it is well within reason to use them. Calling the question is not only a privilege afforded by the rules, but a demand thereof when a meeting is being taken outside the bounds of conducting business, period. Frankly, I would have liked to have seen it used and the rules applied significantly more frequently than it has been. This is not an online debate forum. This is an official meeting of a duly elected legislative body. Debate is allowed, and when carried about in clear good faith, can be a good thing. Grandstanding, virtue signaling, and Gish Gallop aren't that. 2 hours is plenty of time to get through a meeting conforming to the rules herein set. In fact, the overwhelming majority of these meetings should be done and over with in under an hour if you're to adhere to Robert's rules, especially when the agenda is limited and obviously not contentious. Let's get this done, and I know we can do it right. So strike Rule 15 and let's amend Rule 7 as I've suggested.
Thank you, Mike. Anybody else, Sal?
That's his, Mr. Mayor, nobody else.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to mayor's comments. I'll be very brief. Thank you to those serving on this board. The electorates chose you to represent the town, and thank you for giving your time and talent to this wonderful town. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Katie,
We need to appoint a recording secretary.
do I have a motion to appoint a recording secretary?
I'd like to move to appoint Stephanie Barksdale.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
That's it.
Next?
It's only-
Appointment of the vice chairman.
Make a motion to a tremendous job the last few years.
Second?
See her back in
And we have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. Appointment of parliamentarian.
I'd like to appoint Tom Esposito.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention? We have one opposed? Okay.
Who seconded that?
Oh, wait a minute, can you, so,
Paul?
Paul.
Thank
Paul
you.
seconded it.
oh, I
Thank
got that, but you can abstain? Or you vote for yourself? Okay,
Can I vote for myself?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
so just one opposed?
Yep.
Just me one?
Okay.
Item,
You abstained?
no, Mary Jane, you said you opposed. Yes, I thought so. Thanks. Item
Next, the
number
appointment
7.
of a town attorney.
Oh, you did, okay.
Do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Randy Cabela as the town attorney and Kramer and Anderson.
second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Next is number 8, Town Council Rules and Procedures.
I'd like to move to accept the New Milford Town Council rules and procedures as we received.
Do I have a second?
I'd like to make a second with a slight adjustment.
Okay.
In number 7, I wouldn't mind moving this to 9:30 instead of 10:30. If that would be acceptable. Obviously, we can stay as late as we need to for town business, but it
Number 7 would be 9:30.
would be 9:30 instead of 10:30.
That it would adjourn no later, following the sentences of that, you would say, no later than 10:30 unless town council extends the time by a majority vote?
I'm agreeable to that.
No, is that where you meant to put it, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Meeting no later than 9:30 unless town council extends the time by a majority vote. Correct.
Any other amendments? Okay. Whoops.
I have a
Mayor?
question for you.
Yes, sir.
Electronic means under 15, does that also mean that you'll notify us electronically,
Yes,
which
sir.
is not in your rules? Where would you put that?
Notification for agendas, that would be through town email.
Okay, make a change there?
Yep.
On item number 15?
15.
Meeting notifications and agendas.
15.
Could make it agendas as well. Okay.
So, where it has attendance, you're saying that we should, Councilmember, okay, attendance shall be allowed by electronic means, but not limited to telephone or any type of telephony,
See where it says the members participating by
Right,
electronic
okay.
means.
can be identified.
But I don't, is that the
Where would you
agenda?
like to add in what you said, Bob? You're talking about electronic
Including-
means to
That
receive,
Notification.
Notifications.
What he's bringing up.
okay, that's, all
Instead
right.
of means, right?
Is-
Notifications
Notifications.
of
Instead
meetings
of
and
means, right?
agendas,
Is that
right?
correct?
Meeting notifications and agendas.
And
So
agendas.
that everything you do electronically is acceptable.
Right,
Right, that's right. That's why I.
that's what, that's a better way to say it, Alex. Okay,
15
It's in addition to
in
15.
addition.
It would actually be C. Wouldn't it? Not D, I'm sorry, E.
right.
It'd
It'll be
E.
item E.
Item E.
E as in Eddie.
All right, so say it again, what's it gonna be?
That this will include notifications of meetings, agendas, and really all town council communication, correct? All right. Is that acceptable to you, Bob? All,
Any other further discussion? Mary Jane?
So on number 15, I just want to say that we've been doing, allowing telephone, for members to call in on phone. It was before COVID, I think. I'm pretty sure we started that way before COVID, right? Wasn't it? Yeah, so it's been going on for quite a while. And I think, it is a good opportunity if you can't be here and you want to be here and you want to continue to participate. But what I would say is that I think the quality of the phone call is terrible. It's really, I don't know if you've been on it, anybody who's been on
for
it.
you
it's-
as a listener, you mean?
Yes,
Okay.
like
It is tough.
trying to participate. It's the quality is not good. So if there's some way that we can get
We
the
could move
quality
the phone.
better,
I can ask our IT director if there's a better way to rather than have this speakerphone,
Yeah.
better way to do that.
because a lot of times you miss a lot of the conversations that are going on or the public
Okay.
participation. It's really, and sometimes you can't even tell who's really talking. So, I mean, I find that to be a problem. And the other thing I just want to suggest is that we've had some pretty raucous meetings here this past couple years, and I would like to see that come to an end. And I think that's the parliamentarian's job to keep the meeting under control. And I would like to ask people to be respectful. If somebody is speaking, to not interrupt and wait their turn, because we've had a lot of interruptions. And I just find that is very unacceptable. So I would ask that everybody be a lot more respectful and that the parliamentarian do their job. And if somebody is speaking out of turn, they need to be called out. And if parliamentarian doesn't do it, I'm going to do it. So,
Alex?
Do you want to respond to that? Because I have something different.
No, I was just going to to add something to Mary Jane prior to the phone calls being difficult to hear, one of the things that some of us use is not only listening to the phone call, but watching it on YouTube. So you can actually see what's going on in the meeting. And because we do not have a solid stream, it could be 5 seconds, it could be 30 or 40 seconds delayed. So you're watching, you're trying to listen to the current conversation, mouths are going a little cockeyed. If there was a way that we could do a little technology investment this year and get this to stream and maybe be able to also lend
I can
to
ask,
Zoom type of thing, so a councilman could be also zooming in and just specifically listening to the meeting in a private setting that is secure.
I can ask Dave, also ask Mike.
Yeah, I mean,
Back to the
that's a
council.
big thing for a few of us.
Okay.
You know, some,
Good. I
to
think
be able to actually see what's going on and hear at the same time.
telephone would be
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
something simple, Mary
Yeah,
Jane.
it's got to get better. I mean, we've got the technology.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Exactly.
I do this,
exactly.
I probably do 20 meetings like this online a week, and you hear everybody perfectly, so
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
should be able to do
It's
this.
got to get
You're
better.
right, me too.
Mayor? Oh, I'm sorry, Alex, and then Mayor.
Yeah, do we have to mention here that attendees in executive session must be present and can't do it over the phone? Do we want to put
Raina,
that,
should we
do we
put that
have
in
to, or
as
is it a
standard
law?
practice?
Good point, because if you're gonna have it as a rule, it should be in the rules.
Right, that's what we've done.
We've done it, but it's not
You did it by,
written.
you've been doing it, excuse me, you've been doing it by custom.
Right.
Haven't been
So,
doing it by rule.
in-person attendance
should be
for
by
any
rule.
executive session, does that sound right?
Yes.
Attorney DeBella?
Yes.
It does, because then you don't know, who's in the executive session.
Correct.
That's the purpose of that.
Okay.
Bob had it.
Bob?
Mayor?
No, I'll step back.
Okay.
But I was going to, has anyone made a motion to accept these rules as changed?
We haven't yet, because we're still
Yeah,
changing.
we're done.
Friendly
Yeah.
amendments,
Are we
right?
done now?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
So the motion was to accept the item 8, the rules and procedures. Tom seconded it and we have the following exceptions. That number 7 would be, our meeting would be no later than 9:30 unless it's voted on. Item 15E, we're going to work to make the calls clearer for all. And we are going to add, and also the notification of meetings, agendas, and any communication is acceptable to be done by electronic means. That's item 15E also. And that any attendee into an executive session must be in person only.
Seconds.
Thank you.
Any other further discussion?
Should we, I just have a question. Should we add the second Daughter of the Revolution reading, or the William Tyler Page thing that we're reading every meeting right now to the rules? We have, we're standing, we're reading that stuff.
I don't know.
Second.
I don't think so,
What?
yeah. I mean, I like doing it, but I
I just
don't.
asked.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other questions, comments?
Nothing in there to change the rules, but these packets, in my day, they were downstairs stuck in a file, and sometimes I actually hand delivered them. How soon will we get these? What's in here that may not be
Email.
perfect?
So
to
they
my
get
eyes?
emailed to you? If you wanted to pick up a hard copy, we could figure it out with Pat downstairs. And you could figure out, usually Friday we have them, we could have
The
it for you.
folders are always ready the night of the meeting, the day of the meeting.
The folders.
But we receive by email everything that's in that folder.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Is that your question? Okay, that's what I thought.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Item 9, meeting schedule. Everybody has a schedule for 2024. I'd like to move to
And-
accept.
Second that.
Thanks, John.
I was a little slow there. You're looking at me.
And then please,
Hold on, Kay, did you move that? And then
I did, and Mr.
Can we have a
Esposito?
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
the February 12 meeting, while the town offices are open, it is a state holiday. Thereby, we should not be conducting business on that night. We have to observe state holidays.
We do? Is Lincoln's
Yeah.
birthday a state holiday?
Lincoln's birthday, well,
Yeah.
it's because of the unions, that's why it's a state holiday, but it is a holiday. It's a statutorily listed holiday.
I have the state holidays, I checked all the dates.
I did
against
too,
it,
I understand it's a state
And that's the
holiday.
only one.
So February 12th is a Monday, is that correct,
Right.
Mayor?
Yes, it is.
And our attorney says we cannot?
Well, the only way you can do it is by unanimous consent, and the reality is that if a member, you can do that as a body, but if somebody in the public objects to it, then it's gonna be considered.
Unanimous
a
as in the whole
violation.
town? Okay.
Well, unanimous consent of the body.
Yeah, I got
And then
you.
it would be subject to.
Okay.
Make it the 13th.
I'd like to
All
make a
right.
motion to move it to the 13th.
Okay, so we'll amend the motion to change February to the 13th. That'd be Tuesday, the 13th, and the 26th.
And that complies with the statute, which says it'll be moved to the next business day.
Correct. Okay. Anything else?
And this one, can we do this by voice consent, or should
Yeah.
we do this poll everybody?
No, you can do it, but for the
Okay.
13th, it's statutory,
You have your
so
hand
you're
up
okay.
there?
Okay.
Alex has-
I just, as we have more meetings scheduled, I was looking at Board of Ed meetings, and I just want to be cautious about not conflicting, because they're such an important body that we need to work together.
There'll be
So
special
any other, we're good now, but if we have any special meetings, we might want to think about looking at the Board of Ed schedule to make sure we don't
Agreed.
eliminate them.
Mr. Mayor, I can address that at the time the Board of Ed comes in. I've researched that issue.
Perfect, okay. Mayor?
I have a question about Columbus Day. Should that be changed to Indigenous Peoples' Day? Because
Then I'll
that's-
resign. No, I'm teasing. I'm the only Italian around with him. But-
Why is that important?
Oh, yeah, well, look at you.
No, the answer is no. Let's keep it
Yeah, I
Columbus.
would not agree to that.
Let's keep it Columbus
Has it become
Day.
a state, is it,
Let's keep Christmas,
has
Columbus.
it become the state term?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
the
Has-
state calendar has it as Columbus Day.
So
The
be,
governor,
so be it.
Right.
Let's keep it that way.
Good.
wait, the governor's called it what?
Columbus Day.
Oh, okay.
She's right.
Case
All right.
closed.
So we have a motion and we have a second. We've-
Any other discussion?
That's right.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, everybody.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Just in time.
Just in time for our 7
Motion to adjourn for the next meeting.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, everybody. Next will be at 7 PM.
Yeah, I got
Will
7
be
minutes
the
left.
combined meeting.
7 minutes left.
Jets should go play golf. Oh, Katie, I didn't say that, Katie. Katie, yes.
All right. Now you step in something. We can all rise for the pledge, please.
Sir, between the two of them. Wonderful news.
Walter, could you lead us in the pledge, sir?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of silence for the men and women in the armed forces, our veterans, our first responders, those fighting the good fight in Ukraine, and those that are suffering in the Middle East conflict. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We just give a moment for everybody to grab their seats.
Hold the seat for Walter next year.
Yes.
I do this on the rock.
Well, gonna be in the middle. Yeah, just.
I did bring mine. That's not maybe that flag. There you go. Oh, yes. Ooh, look at that. What are you doing to me? Joseph, trying to glow in the dark? What's going on here?
Try not to get hit by a cat. This is yellow. I have yellow on it. It'll make you blind.
Did everybody get an agenda? Everybody get an agenda?
I gave a special one.
He's slacking off. Yeah, he doesn't help.
Yeah, that's you.
He's incognito though.
Okay. All right. We could have everybody's attention. Town Council, we are now open as an agenda. Walter, can you open it up for the Board of Finance?
Open the agenda for Board of Finance.
Wendy, for the Board of Education? Can you
Open the meeting.
open the meeting for the board?
Oh, sure. I'll now open the Board of Education meeting. Excuse me.
Thank you. Next, do we have any public comment? Mike?
All right, Mike Sinella, 111 Willow Springs. Just wanted to say that I did my best to give everybody a microphone, best I could. Some folks are going to have to be sharing some microphones. So if you see the microphone on the stick, that's at these ends, they do rotate. So try your best to share. It's the best I could do for everybody. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Anything else? Do we have anybody else?
Pick up the speed, Sal.
That was it.
Okay. All right.
Pick up the speed.
Next, at our last meeting, we all discussed the possibility of bringing what we believe are the top 3 issues facing this tri-board. And we're going to go over all those, and then tonight kind of filter out really the top 3 concerns for these boards and how we kind of move forward with them. So that being said, we're going to start from right to left. If you could just, for Mike and the camera and those that would be watching tonight, If you can just state your name, which board you are on. We're going to start with you, Joe.
Joseph DiGregorio, Board of Finance.
Dean Borelli, Board of Education.
Robert Gambino, Town Council.
Alexandra Thomas, Town Council.
Tammy McInerney, Board of Education.
Brian McCauley, Board of Education. Walter O'Connor, Board of Finance.
Katie Francis, Town Council.
Pete Bass, Town Council.
Tom Esposito, Town Council.
Paul Murphy, Town Council.
Sal Rinkovich, Town Council.
Diane Clay, Board of Finance.
Joe Triano, Board of Finance.
Yoga Walter, Board of Finance.
Tom O'Brien, Board of Education.
Olga Rella, Board of Education.
Sarah Herring, Board of Education.
Jenna Parlato, Superintendent of Schools. Wendy Fallenbach, Board of Education.
Leslie Sarich, Board of Education.
Great. And thank you all for giving your time, your talent tonight. We're missing somebody?
Barbara.
No? All right. So we're going to start now that we've given everybody an introduction that's watching tonight. We're going to start right to left. If we can go with your three top issues that you believe. Joe, we'll start with you.
I think, you know what? I'm going to abstain. I want to hear what everybody else has to say, because I'm sure the things that I'm going to pick, because I don't have as deep of an understanding of what can be consolidated and what's being done, I think other people might have some better ideas.
Dean?
Well, seeing that it's my first meeting, I haven't really put together a list of three things.
Okay.
So I'll wait and see what everyone has to say and chime in.
Mayor?
I concur with the previous two.
Okay.
I want to hear what happened.
All right.
Okay.
Alex?
You know I have things to say. Okay. First of all, I think that we all need to learn more about what each body is responsible for, because there's a lot of confusion about legally which body runs which parts of the municipality. So that's first and foremost. Then second, find more opportunities to be together for discussions, which goes back to our previous meeting when I mentioned making sure we are in sync with the Board of Ed's schedule of their meetings so that we can work together more in that regard. And third, to not make decisions too rashly and have opportunities for everyone to participate when we're talking about the results affecting everyone, especially our children.
Tammy?
I was not at the last meeting. My husband had emergency brain surgery, so I was not able to be there, be here. So I'm not really sure if we're giving three things about what we would like to see moving forward with our three boards, or if we want to talk about things that we discussed in the last meeting, which I wasn't here for. So
I think it's moving forward, Tammy. What do you think three areas may be of interest?
okay, I truly feel that these three boards need to be very collaborative. And when I mean collaborative, I mean collaborative. We need to be a little bit nicer to each other. I think we need to be a little bit more transparent with what's going on. And again, as Alex said, take opportunities like this to meet together where we can discuss some things where we all need to agree on things. It's so difficult to do that when we're in our own meetings because we're not sure what other people might be thinking, and this brings about an opportunity for that. So I guess I'll leave it there. Those are the three things I would like to see from these three boards.
Right?
I thought a lot about this, especially the last couple of days as I started to panic that the meeting was tonight. But I guess really for me, I want to make sure that this is collaborative and that honestly I look around this table and I know it was discussion of breaking it up into smaller committees. I would like to see it in one, personally, I would like to see it in one committee of 3 members of each board and to trust the other, those members of your board, because I just think that this is a large body and I think it's hard to get things done in a large body like this. And also, and really most importantly, I would like to see that we are very careful, because there was a lot of talk at the last meeting about human resources. And you're stepping into legal, like, dynamite right there, because there's nothing, and I honestly, if you want to combine human resources, then I think it should be someone from the schools who is in charge of that, because they understand how schools work and all. I mean, you're dealing with 5 unions, you're dealing with labor issues, you're dealing with pupil issues, and I've seen schools, and I don't want our town to get sued. And I'm afraid that would open if a mistake is made, and I've seen lots of mistakes made in my career, and I've worked on the special ed where there's a lot of legal issues, and I've seen school districts sued, and rightfully so, by parents, and I would hate to have those parents then sue the town because the town is attached to it, and it gives another target. So I really would stay away from human resources personally. In the collaboration, I don't see it as being a big money saver.
Walter?
Well, I concur on the collaboration of the people that have sought. On a specific thing, I think we need to look at building maintenance, external, internal, who's responsible for it. I know there's a lot of controversy going back and forth on existing buildings and that. I think we need to get a clear line of demarcation on that, what needs to be done, what's the most efficient and safe manner, and quite frankly, the least expensive manner for doing that.
Well, Katie?
Well, I do also believe this is an opportunity for collaboration, but I did think of 2 things. 3 was just overwhelming. I think this body can handle it, and the first one that I think we should begin to collaborate on, whether it's in small groups or however that works out, there's too many of us for one person to say, is the maintenance of the buildings, the facilities. There are lots of areas that are duplicated. This should be an organizational and a fiscal efficiency that we're looking for. So not always every penny, but to have 12 different soap dispensers and 6 different kinds of paper towels. We've already shown with printers and some other things that we've done with the Board of Ed that it's possible to save some money in a painless way. My second item that I think we could discuss is HR. I understand what you're saying, Brian, about there's ramifications, but other towns do it. It doesn't mean that one person controls everything. I think we all know enough about corporate America to know that you have CEOs, vice presidents, one's under this, another vice president of this or that. It can work, and it, again, would not necessarily be for the fiscal only, but the operational part, timekeeping, money saved with the payroll operation. I just think that we've become large enough to consider it, and I hope that these discussions will allow for consideration and not stonewall, because frankly, as everybody else has said before who's been involved in this, that's what happens. And I think we all have to just zip it and go through this question by question, not belabor it, and ask the same thing or state the same thing over and over again. So I just get that out there. But I only could come up with 2, Mayor, and those 2.
Thank you, Katie. Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. First off, I'm very pleased that we're all here and that this has finally happened after many years of us trying to do this, for almost as long as I can remember. My issues are the same ones I've been bringing up for years. Facilities, right? As I said during budget hearings, the board does a great job in educating our kids. You're not building professionals. I really think that's got to be consolidated, these facilities, maintenance inside and out, major repairs, major upgrades. This should really be handled by the town. It's not an offense to anybody. It's just not within, I think, the skill set of everybody to manage a massive school with a huge budget and thousands of kids. To have to maintain the buildings is not as easy as it looks. That is probably the biggest thing, along with overall property maintenance of this, landscaping, things like that. I think we can consolidate. We have some great people at DPW. We have great people at the school. Let's put them all together under one group of leaders and save ourselves some money there. The second one that I see is, I definitely see an opportunity for IT. I think on the town side and the school side, we have fantastic IT people. I think we can do it in a way that continues to protect the privacy of the kids, because I know that has been an issue we brought up here for years, and it's always been countered with, well, there's a lot of privacy issues with IT. I think in today's day and age, we can overcome that. I know from our side, David Watson has done a brilliant job of transforming and protecting the town. I know he collaborates on a daily basis with the board. Maybe there's a place where we can save some money there and continue to get some efficiencies and help each other. You guys have a much bigger IT staff than the town has. You're a 9-to-5er, we're a 9-to-5er, but there's times in emergencies that we can probably help each other. And then last, which is things that we've been doing consistently, has been joint purchases. Once again, as Katie, let's buy all the same toilet paper, all the same paper towels, all the same tissues, everything the same, and we can have some economies of scale and some savings there. And those are going to be my 3. I think that if we accomplish 1 out of the 3 that we come up with out of this committee, in my experience, after 14 years of being in this room, I think that would be a huge accomplishment. And I know we can do it because people in this room have desire to do it. We're trying to deliver a better value for our kids, our shareholders, which are our taxpayers, right, and the people who want to invest in our community. Thank you.
Paul?
Tommy's been looking over my shoulder.
We've been talking about the same stuff for a long time.
I concur with him on all 3. We're here to represent the people of the town and in Milford. They're the people that elected us. They're the people that are paying the taxes. And it's time that we try to save those people money. And if it's duplications of mowing schoolyards and parks and recs, or doing IT work, HR work, whatever the case might be, we need to save the taxpayer dollars. And whatever it's going to take for this committee, whether it be small groups of us or the whole 3 boards together, we need to do it. All 3, facilities, the groundskeeping, the IT department, HR, as you talked about, purchasing, stuff that we can purchase together, trucks. I know the school board goes out and buys their own vehicles. We're buying our own vehicles. Let's try to work it out where we're going to the same dealer, buying the same type of vehicle and trying to save some money. It doesn't make sense. I'm a taxpayer. We're all taxpayers here. Let's try to save $1 for ourselves as well as the 29,000 people that are supposedly looking in on this video tonight. It's time that we work for the town and stop yelling at each other here. We're not accomplishing anything. Let's do stuff for the people of New Milford.
Sal?
So since Tom and Paul stole the thunder, what am I supposed to say? No, I'm just kidding. So I concur with what they said. I do have a question. I have some ideas, which are already in line with that. But I do have a questions to the Board of Ed, and specifically to Ms. Parlato. Where do you need help with? What do you think the shortage is that town council or town as a whole can help you, right? Like maintenance, ITs. These are all things that you probably can use our help with. But I would like to have a list of things that what do you think we can help with, and then we can definitely try to accommodate. And me myself, I have a 1 vote in this one. Obviously, I do my best to help, but I would like to hear more from the body that we have in front of us to give us this guidance. That's it for me.
Thank you, Sal. Diane?
And that kind of goes to what Tammy was saying. We need to learn more about who does what and where it can be improved. For example, I don't know how much conversation is going on between the 3 entities as to IT. Not a clue. So we could be doing it great right now. We could be doing it better. I don't know. So I, oddly enough, came up with the exact 4 ideas that everyone here has talked about. Building and infrastructure maintenance, IT, grounds maintenance, and purchasing. So I looked at it from kind of a thought about what could we do to improve our time savings, our cost savings, and efficiency. And I think all 4 of those would potentially bring in a lot of synergy and savings. And I was a council person in New Jersey for 6 years before I came here. And we not only did this with all of our major entities in town, but we also shared services and we shared skills with neighboring communities. So that also could be something that we could look into.
Great. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Joe?
Thank you, Mayor. 2 of mine are very broad and echo what prior members have said before me.
One would be cost savings and consolidation. I think there's definitely ground we can make up there. The second would be bureaucracy and red tape elimination. So, like Diane said, efficiency and just making things a little quicker in terms of time. The third I have is more specific, and I admit that I know nothing about it. So I'm not sure. I'm sure there's better people than me that can help try to make that situation better, and that would be school buses. I hear a lot of complaints and see a lot of complaints about school busing, both in terms of staffing, time it takes to get kids home, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you, Joe. Walter?
Mr. Mayor, one of the key words I heard tonight was collaboration. You know, we got 3 committees sitting here. We got the town council, we got the Board of Education, we got the Board of Finance. And you know, we should be in a situation where I think we should be all neutral. And on the agenda tonight, it talks about a facilitator. You know, if I run into problems personally, I go to a financial advisor. He's my facilitator, and he says, well, you do this, you do that, you do this. We got 3 committees here that let's be all neutral, get a financial advisor, get a facilitator, and say, hey, this is the direction we can move in to make it better. Enough, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Will.
Sure.
Eric?
Got a few here. First, I thought maybe, and excuse me, I came in late, so if someone already said this, I'll repeat some that may have already been said. Maybe there's some opportunity in recreational facilities. Again, I'll echo someone said facilities maintenance. I agree with that. I would add grounds maintenance to that. School security is one. I think that perhaps there's some synergy that can be had there. Purchasing, we've already said that. Technology, internet, HR. But I would point out that one of the things I've learned since being on the school board that I think that, and we could do this by having multiple specialties within HR, but I think that the HR activity for the school board is very specific and different than most other HR activities. I was surprised at what a specialized skill that is, but I would add that also to this.
Thank you, Eric. Tom?
So I've been on the board for 2 years now, and I feel like I'm just beginning to understand the complexities it takes to run a school system. So I'm not prepared to throw something against the wall at this point and say we should do this, we should do that. So I'm going to pass.
Okay. Olga?
I feel that I am open to exploring facilities, maintenance of our buildings, grounds, just because I feel that the 2 departments could really collaborate really well. I also would like to see collaboration in our HR departments and not so much in the specifics of running the HR department, but in the organization, that both can mirror each other and offer the same answers to problems and educational necessities that need to be done in an HR department. And I also feel that purchasing is an area where combined we could be saving a lot of money.
Thank you. Sarah?
Well, if Tom feels inadequate at 2 years, I sure feel inadequate at 8 months on the board. I had 3 ideas, and now I've listened to everybody else, and you say, wow, I never thought of that, or I never thought of this. I think any idea is worth exploring because it can't hurt to share ideas and to get information. And if it serves the town well, we save money and things can be efficiently done, then certainly, and all the boards can retain their power is not the word I mean, but their identity and their function, then I don't see why any of these wouldn't be good ideas should they be explored and turn out to be money saving as well as time saving.
Thanks, Sarah. Dr. Parlato?
I'm going to abstain because.
Okay.
Yes.
Wendy?
I'm not an elected official.
Okay.
Okay, so I won't review what everybody else has said, but I think that a discussion that has come up and was kind of put on pause, when we speak about purchasing, we have purchasing obviously in our day-to-day operational purchasing and supplies. We also have 3 tiers of capital expenditures, and the capital expenditures have a direct operational impact as well as a net effect, meaning those that are not in our budget and we know that they're coming. They're large expenditures. We've had this conversation before. I would hope that we could take our 5-year capital plan, which is G in our appendix of our budget book, and take a look at the town's 5-year capital plan. I tried to find it on the website. I could not, so I apologize. And layer them together. And when you talk about large purchases, to me, that's once we identify the need and the time frame of that, it's almost like low-lying fruit. If those are expenditures you know you're going to need and be able to plan for, and the board needs something and the town needs something, those are actual supplies or a expenditure in which we could purchase together. And it is a cost savings. Whether we pay for it now or pay for it later, it's something that if we purchase together in order to keep the town in a positive flow and being productive, I think there's a cost savings mechanism there. And we talked about the capital way to do that in some of those projects.
Leslie?
I think I would just like to wait to see if we could get a facilitator in here to do a forensic deep dive on everything, what everybody's talking about, and really see what they suggest.
Joe? Back to you.
So I've kind of been trying to take notes so that I could better understand. I find it really interesting that people's individual perspectives kind of plays into the things that they're offering, right? In my mind, building maintenance and facilities is kind of one department, right? I kind of consider a lot of that to be under the same umbrella, let's say, right? Although there probably are different layers, right? There's like capital, building maintenance, roofs, major repairs, that sort of thing. And then day-to-day facilities sort of operated sort of thing. So that's kind of an interesting one. I actually think that that's a great area. I think IT is also probably a strong area. And that will likely also, in my mind, kind of play into security, because I kind of bundle that under one sort of thing, because a lot of the modern day security is going to end up being, what I would typically call like low voltage and access controls, right? You'd have, video monitoring systems and those sorts of things, but they really kind of are two things. So I think that that's another IT and security or another interesting one. Collaboration, I kind of think that's the reason that we're here, right, is to kind of try to find a way to collaborate. Human resources, I think, is a quagmire. I think that one's going to be a difficult one to kind of drag through the mud. I see Randy nodding his head and Tom over there. I think that might be something that we might, that probably would need something of a facilitator or an expert. And then what was the other thing? The joint purchases. I mean, I think that's a no-brainer. But again, kind of to Wendy's point, I think that that's something that is probably already happening to a certain degree. And maybe what we need is more of a purchasing review process, right, where certain things can kind of be filtered through a layer. And again, that might also tie into IT, where if we could find a platform where as purchases are being made, all departments can kind of submit to a single hub, and we can look at it and go, oh, hey, we're coming up on needing, a container full of paper for the printers or something. It's a obscure, a little bit of an absurd thing, but you might find a trend where those efficiencies could naturally find themselves, as opposed to having some sort of a rigid process that everyone has to follow, right? So if everybody submits to a central hub and they look at it and they go, oh, we need microphones, we need whatever, bubble gum and duct tape. I don't know, whatever it is. Anyway, that's my thoughts. So kind of broad, but I appreciate you coming back around to me, Mayor.
Absolutely. Do we have anybody else that going around this time have anything they'd like to say about their top 3 issues? Oh, Alex?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In reviewing the state charter, Chapter 171, Town Management, I pulled it up because I can't memorize these things. there are 3 areas already addressed by the state. So one is joint purchasing of property insurance, casualty insurance, and workers' comp. We're already there. One is purchasing of goods and services. This is the one I think that would make the most sense for everybody to look at it, and some is already happening. And the third one is purchase of payroll processing or accounts payable software. Well, we're already doing these things anyway. But those are the only 3. Otherwise, they very distinctly have 2 separate entities.
So if you do take a look at there, Alex, and I'll get you the actual thing, the state did allow for the combination of combined services in the fields of IT, in the fields of facility, and in the fields of HR.
So
I can get you those.
that'd be great. I'd like to know how they do that.
Absolutely.
That'd be great, because I think we're going at this without all the information we
Yep,
need to
absolutely.
talk about it.
Now, excuse me if if this is something that just naturally happens, right? What about utilities? Are they already joint purchased? They are. The town already buys electricity as a wholesale rate for the Board of Education and the
Correct.
town together?
And oil.
And oil and...
Oil, natural gas.
Okay.
Gasoline, oil.
I thought that was the
We
case,
do that
but...
already. In this,
Yep.
we split. The audit, we split.
Yep.
We already do that. And when you mention energy, right now, we're in the midst of one of the largest projects that the town has gone through, in which we're finalizing those numbers. That is the ESGMB5 product of basically conserving energy, taking those costs and rolling it over to the capital expenditures to not bill the taxpayer, pay basically for $15 million worth of capital projects. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 20-year commitment.
Correct.
So we've already signed off on that in August of 2021. And we're right now working on how to identify transparently to the taxpayer the billing, the captured savings, building by building, and how those numbers play into our payments against our bond.
And then on top of that, Joe, we've worked with the Board of Education with us moving from being a self-insured health insurance to the SPP plan. That's millions in cost avoidance by making that move together.
We did
Those
that.
millions of dollars.
When we began that, Mayor,
Yep.
it was a 2-year lift. We went from self-insured to SPP. The public trend at that time was roughly 12%. When SPP came on board, some of those were coming in at 6 to 7%. Those cost savings, not to mention bargaining units across the board with on an average of a 0.4 savings in those contracts compounded. So we continue to look at where we are. We talk to our actuaries and we receive their feedback as when what we do, if we pivot, how we pivot, and we've recently done that on a quarterly basis. And it has absolutely, if you take a look, just a basic, pull out a budget book for the Board of Education, and if you take a look at the first year that we fully put into the budget on an SPP and take back out a difference between 11% and 7%, right there is a cost savings to the operational budget, not to mention contractually. So there will be a time that may have to change. We have committed to trying to be in the forefront of that. It's a very arduous, long process, but there is no doubt it's been millions of dollars. We've had this conversation many times. Pardon me, I just wanted to jump in on that.
Diane.
Thank you. It also occurred to me, we should not forget that we have a huge community of very skilled people.
I agree.
Who might be able to offer to assist us. I'll just give IT as an example. My husband had a great career. He was CIO at Time Warner, Time Inc., Time Magazine, and he was able to connect and make sure that the connectivity between all of those entities worked, that the equipment was purchased logically, making way for future, changes and advances. And I'm sure there are plenty of other people in the community who have similar stories and would be able to potentially, come in for a little bit of consultation. So
Great
we,
idea.
yeah, we just should not forget that there are those people out there.
Absolutely.
That-
We've seen that time and again.
You just reminded me of one of my notes, and I apologize, in-kind services. The town and the board work a lot on in-kind services. What that means, for example, is the youth agency. They use Hill and Plain, Northville, Sarah Noble, before and after school for their programs. We don't bill them for that, obviously. Another possible example, and nor should we, but there are ways to reciprocate. For example, I had mentioned this one time a while ago, and this is just a thought. Transportation is something that municipalities need to really challenge. You have bus contracts, of course, but there are other modes of transportation. For example, if there was a purchase of a van, that's a one-time capital expenditure, you can employ a resident of the town of New Milford to assist with those program liaisons where you can't have buses take children from place to place. An example is if we have one student that needs special transportation as assignment, those costs can be over $200,000 for the year. That is a van and an aid. So if you take the van out of the picture and the school supplies the aid, you have a significant savings and you're employing a New Milford resident with a one-time capital expenditure. Just a thought. Being creative in some of those big dollars while you're also supplying a service to have our community be able to reach those places, I think is just a thought as well.
And in-kind services as well, for instance, when we needed some trees that needed to be taken down, Hill and Plain School, and also some of the trees that needed to be pruned inside of the mezzanine areas in the high school. We went in and did those for them. Also, we helped, there was, I believe it was a DEEP requirement at Scatticoke School for their septic, and that we did and signed off as a PE with Jack Healy to do that. So there's things that we do together. Some things that have borne a lot of fruit that I think that we should continue to look at is, for instance, certain needs that are needed by the district, that when we can, that we help as the town. For instance, we just helped with the gyms on both of the schools. We've helped with athletic equipment. We've helped in a number of different ways, the needs of the district. And I know Wendy and I have been talking about this and are firming it up, where we actually look at our five-year capital plan in totality and make it a universal one, where it's not only the town and the board separately, but together. And that way we can fit in those projects to make it where the cash flow is level versus sporadically up and down, which then affects the taxpayer. And it gives us that ability to really manage our cash flow properly. Any other questions? Walter.
Wendy, I want to thank you for your comments. Board of Education needs a magic ball, and you don't have one, because trying to be accountable for the school year has got to be phenomenal, because sometimes you got to rob Peter to pay Paul, and one of the big things, like you mentioned, is special education. How do you measure that? It can change dramatically throughout the course of the year, and you guys are sitting on your hands, and how do you handle that? It could cost one student $100,000 to ship that person out, if not more. Where are you going to get that money from? So the financial advisor says to you, help, he needs help too. Because I don't envy you sitting on the Board of Education. None of you. I wouldn't want that job.
And you say that after recent elections. Thanks,
Wendy, what do I know?
Very poorly timed.
Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Any other comments concerning agenda item? Whoops. Tammy?
That's very true, Walter. Thank you for bringing that up, because that is one of the things that I think scares the Board of Education the most when we are putting a budget together. I also just wanted to mention, and I'm sorry that if this was already mentioned, but when you talk about consolidation, I worry about the union negotiating impact of that, because as we all know, we're dealing with unions. And if we have this union doing this over here and this one doing this over here, they need to, that's a lot of negotiating. And when you guys mentioned the insurance plan, I remember the town had to get all of their people on board, all their unions on board. The Board of Education had to do the same thing, and it took a lot of time, right? Because these things aren't the snap of a finger. And that was something people were excited about, because they were getting a better plan. So this whole conversation can also be sparking fear for certain people. I think we want to be really sympathetic to that. But I like the idea that a couple of you had about getting some type of a facilitator. I know our lawyers will be involved in this, and they have to be, right? But I think a facilitator that's going to be looking into this type of stuff is really important, because getting to that point could cost us more money than what we would end up saving.
Thanks, Tammy. Randy, could you comment a little bit about?
Sure.
Randy, I think you.
I had a brief. Well, I work for you guys. I had a brief discussion, two brief discussions with Attorney Shuren. Zach Shuren, for those of you who don't know, is the attorney for the Board of Ed. And we had a brief discussion about this, the entire concept. I've also reviewed, and you'll know this, Tom Mooney's book, pretty in-depth. Right. And I've done some research the post-Ellington cases and the cases that have come down since then. This is doable. It's doable, as Brian noted, it's doable with caution, with caveats. We have to stay, each side, I'll say Board of Ed side and the town side, I don't mean that as opponents, but each side has to stay in their own lane. At the same time, there are things that are inviolate. Think of it kind of as a Venn diagram. Whatever's in the Venn can be fair game to discuss. The biggest thing that Zach and I talked about was maintenance. He said that is going to be an issue that we're going to have to address because of the union issues. We're not going to, the town, and it's not going to mess with teachers, with the professionals, or the paraprofessionals, or the administrators. And the Board of Ed is not going to mess with the road crews, or with the roads, or with anything else. But there are certain things within that Venn diagram that you need to identify that can be handled. Alex was correct. The state has spoken on some of them, and to the credit of this town and another number of towns, that's been addressed. I mean, to the best you can. Bear in mind, there has to be a natural tension among the Board of Finance, the Town Council, and the Board of Ed. That's normal. It's absolutely normal. And that goes back to those Ellington cases and the Naugatuck cases. So the reality is that this can be done based upon an understanding that you need to still stay in your same lane. Example, the most popular recent one is maintenance. The town of New Milford has no authority to go into a school building. Even though it owns it, it cannot control it. That's clear. I don't know who thinks otherwise. But the town has no business doing that unless they're asked. So the reality is that, and again, Zach and I have to talk about this in depth. We're going to have to get this by, obviously, the legalities. We have to pay heed to the CBAs or collective bargaining agreements. We have to pay heed to that. We may have to get the business agents involved in discussing this, because the big deal here is maintenance of facilities and buildings. That's a big deal. Nobody's going to care that we do joint purchasing for computers or for things of that nature. But they are going to care about the effect that it has on the union employees, because if it costs a job or if it costs control, that's going to be an issue that's going to be negotiated. And it has to be negotiated professionally. So the reality is that this can be done. I'm convinced it can be done. And the collective intelligence, imagine this, you can't outsmart all these people, because that collective intelligence is great. The only thing that impedes the capacity of intellect is politics. So if you can put that aside and put your venom and vitriol aside, you can get a lot done with this with this group here. Because, and one of the things that we train trial lawyers is that don't think you're going to outsmart 10 people or 12 people or 8 people on a jury. You're not. So it's the same thing here. If you put your intellect together and don't let policy or politics get in the way, you'll come up with some great policies. It can be done. It's got to be done cogently, and it's got to be done efficiently and legally. We can get it done legally. Facilitator might very well be a great idea. So I've done the research, and I believe it can be done. I have not shared that with Zach yet, but we'll be talking about that. Any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer.
Attorney Bella, for the good of the community, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Randy.
You're welcome.
Going around a couple times, last call. Anything when it concerns? Walter, sorry?
Just real quick, people are talking about potentially consolidating things. And we shouldn't consolidate it just for the sake of consolidation. There really has to be a cost saving, because if it's done wrong, it's going to increase the cost of the town. So we really have to be cautious about that. And I know Randy was referring to Zach. I know Zach is the Board of Ed attorney, but I'm not sure everybody here might know him by his first name or actually his nickname. So.
Tremendous lawyer.
Pardon?
Fabulous lawyer.
Yeah, oh yeah, I've worked with him before.
Okay. So once, twice, okay. Next, we're going to move on to discussion on using a facilitator for future meetings. I spoke today with CCM. I spoke with Max Freeman. I'm sorry, those who don't know who CCM is, it's the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, of which New Milford is part of the 168 towns. I don't think they have all. I think there's one that's not, I think. And I spoke with Max Friedman, who heads their municipal consulting service entities. And one of the things I thought was very positive, he says, lots of towns are looking at this. You're not the only town. So they're coming up with kind of what their plan and strategy is concerning that. He feels if they can't do a facilitation of something like this, there are consultants that they're aware of that can. So my thoughts, the thoughts of this board, I've already heard from some members, is that in something as complex as this, with different dynamics, you need to have a facilitator. Someone that's neutral, someone that people can buy into and don't think it's because of one angle here, one angle there. I think that neutrality would pay dividends for the honest conversations that we're going to have concerning different opportunities that we have. So what I'm going to be doing is bringing back to these bodies, in candor, I'm going to be bringing back before this committee to Dr. Parlato, to Wendy as the chair, and to our Board of Finance chairman as well, kind of the names that were recommended. We'll talk to them first, see if it's a good fit, and then look to bring on a facilitator as we continue to kind of drill down on these wonderful opportunities that we have. Randy? Oh, I thought you were saying something.
Fabulous idea.
Wendy?
I'd like to give you some credit here, because when we began this conversation on how to pursue that, you were very open to that idea and you embraced it. When you spoke with both of us, we had mentioned that perhaps that might be the way to go, with the goal that a couple of things that I think we should also put on the table. A facilitator, this could be a long-term committee assignment. We want to make sure it's done professionally. We want to make sure that if information is required, that we're not asking town staff and board staff to accumulate that information and show up and give testimony to it. So bringing in a professional with both municipal and school experience is key, not just municipal.
Absolutely.
So you were very open to that, and I appreciate it very much, and was pleased to see it on the agenda. There are also some costs that may be incurred as we go further, and two will be obviously the use of a facilitator and legal counsel. If there's anything to do with any type of bargaining or anything like that, those costs, I think, are an investment well spent for the town of New Milford. But I just wanted to put it out there, as I mentioned to you, that is, those could be some outside costs to have this done appropriately.
Thank you. As I think is, I'm sorry, Sal, before I defer to you, I think what's really great about this is Randy had just opined and just was proven by the example, Chairwoman Fallback, that you just said, is that there are tons of experiences here, tons of great ideas. Doesn't have to come from one person. It can come from anybody here. And the great part about it is we use those experiences and use those talents, and we've seen it in so many ways, whether it's COVID response. We had Dr. Levin. I mean, like you were saying, Diane, we could never pay for that. And he gave it up to us for nothing. So I think great ideas. If people have more ideas that they think that could make this better, please reach out. It's the only way it can get better. So, and again, thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Dr. Parlato.
How did that go? Reached out to CCM
Yep,
and...
I spoke to Max Friedman.
Yeah.
He's the one that actually runs the
Yeah.
department. And first thing he said is, that's very funny that you were talking to us, because we have now a lot of interest from a number of municipalities. And he said, you're not the only one. And I said, that's great to hear. And he said, we're going to look at, I said, do you have a facilitator that could handle something like that? He goes, we're kind of fleshing that out. If we don't, we can recommend some consultants that can handle this, that can do that. He's going to get back to me hopefully sometime towards the end of the week. And then once that happens, then, as I said before, to this body, you, Dr. Parlato, Walter, myself, we can kind of regroup and see about facilitation and bringing that to this type of group, as now we're beginning to drill down on really the topics that seem to be of most interest to the boards. Any other discussion on that topic? Oh, I'm sorry, Mayor. And then Sal, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just thinking about the two of you, what you're talking about, and the facilitator. And then I thought about 29,000 population, and then I look north and south, and you go east and west. But have you looked at other organizational things like, municipal entities that have tried to do what we're doing, to see how they've actually gone through the ramifications of getting to a final product?
So great question, Mayor. I did ask them that. They're going to be providing me that information, because we're not the only ones. And there are some that are actually starting this process now. So, some have been doing it a long time. I think the more that it's in tune with date-wise with what we have now to the present versus somebody did this 20 years ago. I think the newer ones, is be a better model for us to at least look at. Sal?
So I just have I've never dealt with a facilitator like this, so I don't have an opinion, to be honest. It sounds like a good idea, at least to endeavor, to discover. One of the things I would like to get out of this meeting, since we're all sitting here, is if we can come up with some kind of a matrix. I mean, for those of you that work in the corporations, the RACI is, right? Responsible, accountable, informed, stuff like this. So in corporations, we're using day in, day out. There's people that need to be informed, there are people that are accountable for something. So whatever we come up with at some point, where it's going to be this facilitator that keeping that schedule, that RACI or whatever, we would have to have some kind of a statement saying, these are the people that were informed, these are the people who are accountable, these are the people who are responsible, stuff like this. So we don't have to sit, or we're not going to sit on the table, hopefully in the future, and have a discussion like what's going on Facebook right now, because we don't want to have this, ever. So I would like to have some kind of a RACI, some kind of a matrix, saying these are the people, these are the things we discussed, responsibilities, yes, no's, and information that was distributed. So next time when something comes up, like the East School, it's all going to be spelled out. We don't have to go over and over again and ask. And Randy DeBella asked his opinion. He repeats over and over again the same thing, basically, which he's right. But again, we have to have some kind of a matrix of what we're doing and people involved. And if it's going to be facilitator, so be it. If not, we have to find some way to get that going.
I think, Sal, what's very beneficial about tonight, very positive, is that you're getting a sense from the group as to what's of interest. And that's the facilitator, no matter what you do, that's what he's going to ask for in the beginning is, what's of interest? He doesn't want to reinvent the wheel. And then from there, you begin to drill down through your meetings of how that stuff works. But I thought today's meeting so far has been exceptional in that we're able to all voice our opinions in a very business-like manner. What's of interest, how things can happen. We've heard from Randy, our town attorney, on some on certain things as well. And, you know, what I'd like to hear from everyone else that hasn't opined, I mean, what's your guys' thoughts on a facilitator? I personally, just my own 2 cents, thinks that should be something that we should have. Eric?
I've done what we're essentially doing here is a brainstorming meeting.
Yes.
I've done many of them. And facilitator is key because you need someone who is, there's a challenge. If you've got a horse in the race, it's hard for you to facilitate when you're also contributing. So a facilitator will serve as a perfect, unbiased arbiter. Oh yeah. And look, and we're already starting to see this. I'm seeing a similar pattern that I always see. Everyone come up with the ideas. Then some people are now starting to nip at the edges of what's going to actually happen with that facilitator. The facilitator is going to take. We've got a lot of ideas on the table. They're going to take those ideas. They're going to assign metrics. They're going to take a look at the legalities of it, the cost benefit, the probability of it actually happening, and they'll come up with metrics. And a good facilitator will come up with maybe a top 3 that we can then pursue, so we don't dilute our energies. So I think it's a great idea.
Absolutely. Dean?
I want to echo what Sal had said. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's a good idea to have a type of an action plan. It holds people accountable to what's going on, so everyone could look at it, refer to it, know where we are, where it stands, what our projected outcome is going to be. And to go off of what Eric was saying, having all of those listing of items, of action items that we may be taking on, the facilitator can actually give a percentage of completion or the chance that it's going to be accomplished and what obstacles may lie in the way. And what it ends up shooting is an offshoot of additional action items that will need to be done to further assess it and who's best suited to answer those. So it should be something of an action plan. There's software that they can use, but typically it's just a simple spreadsheet that everyone can share, that we can see where things land and where they lie.
Absolutely. Walter?
You need a motion to that effect, Mr. Mayor.
I don't think I need so much emotion, it's just a general, right, Randy? Just a general kind of consensus to most people. Tom?
And then Brian.
Okay. I'm sorry, Brian, I didn't see you over there.
Well, I just, I don't think we should meet again until we have a facilitator, because I think they should drive the meeting process, honestly. And then I also wanted to just say I have to excuse myself. So
Gotcha, Brian.
thank you, everybody, for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Tom?
Thank you, Ray.
So if I'm hearing correctly, what you and Mr. DeBella were saying is that other towns are beginning this process.
There are other towns that I believe have already gone through it.
So that's what I would like to see, is
Yeah.
a record of success. Not something that was done 20 years ago that kind of fizzled out, or not something that somebody's considering now. Is especially if we're looking at a big thing, like I see a lot of support for combining facilities, I would want to see a track record of success.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I hope with the facilitator, that information will be what they will provide as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We have Walter?
Referring to CCM facilitators, do they supply them, or is there going to be a cost to the town?
I'm assuming there will be a cost to the town. They don't do it for free.
True.
And then whatever that cost would be, if it's going to be them, or if they recommend a...
Outside facility.
And
So that's something we're going to have to hash out as to the costs of all this and find out that. Any other comments? Okay. So moving forward to the next one is this discussion and possible action on setting a future date of a joint meeting between between the boards. And I do think that as we get a facilitator, I do believe we should put on the books a date for the next meeting. And that holds everybody accountable, as Sal's talking about. Wendy?
In the back of our minds, because a facilitator can be a pricey item, we might want to give some cost. They provide very in-depth scopes and services, and as you duly noted, municipalities are going in this direction because they want to identify that they've at least explored some of these options. It's a cost. So we also want to consider where that cost would come from. Obviously, they're unbudgeted, so I just wanted to put that out there. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that.
Tom?
I mean, we're going to need a line in our budget for this, obviously. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. None of these guys come cheap. So I think we're going to have to definitely have a budget line
Well, I think what we
item.
need to do first and foremost is talk to CCM.
Absolutely.
Talk to whether they recommend somebody in-house, whether they recommend a consultant, get the actual pricing. That's why I want to sit down with Dr. Parlato and Wendy, and then sit down with Walter as well, and then figure out what that costs are. And that's why I kind of want to bring that back to this full committee, because we're going to have people's buy-ins depending on how this gets paid.
Right, and that was kind of my follow-up to this. I think we should establish a meeting for sometime later next month, whatever is convenient, where you can bring back some names and budget items, and we can discuss, you know, where we're going to get our biggest bang for the buck, because part of this is for savings. You know, if we expend a lot of this on an overpriced facilitator, or, you know, or somebody who may be giving us more than what we're looking for, I think we need to try to save, obviously, every dime that we can. I find the tremendous need for a facilitator. I agree with everybody, but I would love to really see this bid out. And let's not put a budget out there like we've done on everything else. Oh, we're going to spend $8 million here and then ask people to bid on it. Let's just ask them to give us a bid.
Katie?
So, having been a consultant and a facilitator for 15 years, I can tell you that let's not put the cart before the horse. The first thing you need to do is identify with, whether it's CCM, and if you tell them the basics and they say, no, I think you're going to need an outside consultant, is you need to give them the scope. It can be big, it can be small, and it can be within the price range that we feel would be tolerable for both of us. And part of what someone does as a facilitator is basically to keep, this meeting tonight was probably the most civil, the most structured, and we got a lot of information out of it. And that is what a good facilitator will do. We'll make sure that whenever we're together talking about whatever we're talking about, that we don't go around and around as we know we've done in the past. So I think that is absolutely what has been said, is that you need to talk to CCM, give them an idea, see what they say about who's available and when they're available. That's another thing. It's a very lucrative, very popular thing. Now, I wouldn't say it's necessarily lucrative, but it's very popular to bring in facilitators for many things because it does save time, and time is money. So I'm just going to say, actually, what Tom just said, let's go towards the end of next month. By then, you should have some information, and if you don't, whatever you do find out, you could let us know.
Okay. So what we'll do is set up I'm sorry, Joe?
So, I'm sorry, I just kind of want to reiterate, I'm trying to kind of get a handle on where we're headed, right? So, we've identified some major areas of concern, right, as a group. We've decided that we are going to go with some sort of a facilitator or a consultant, right? Roughly at some point next month, we're going to have another meeting, right, where we will agree on a scope of work for this consultant,
Or maybe not.
along with, we'll discuss the scope of work and some various options, along with some pricing for these options, so that we can make a selection and decide
Correct.
how we're going to move forward. Okay.
And I think by tonight, by doing this, this is bringing the scope that the facilitator is going to need to give you the pricing or what he or she feels would be where they would go next. So it's not like a big, huge open canvas. Here's kind of what this body's looking at, concerns, pros, cons, and we bring that back to this meeting at the end of next month. And we either do it that month, at that meeting, or decide to hold off on it. That's the power of the group.
Should we discuss that scope of work now, so that you kind of can get out there and have at least some sort of a direction? No, you don't think so, Katie?
The only reason is because I don't think we are anywhere near in agreement in this room with what the scope of work should be. And that can be tightened up to, an overview by having the mayor speaking with CCM. These are people who've done this with far more complex things than we have here. So they are well aware that we are asking these questions and have these concerns. I mean, I'm sure they will ask you that. So, and the mayor can come back and tell us. I mean, we have communication.
And I think, Joe,
Why not?
is when I do speak to them, I'm also going to be having Walter there, as well as Chairman Fullenbach and Superintendent Parlato together. So it's the board's representative listening to CCM, and or if it's a consultant, because they may have, from their angle, they may have some questions that I don't have any idea about. And I think, the more experience, especially in talking with someone like this in CCM, I think the better product we'll get moving forward.
Sure. Makes perfectly good sense.
All right. Lastly, real quick, I would be remiss, and I apologize if it's okay with this group, real quick, was that Councilman Cosgrove had given me via email, because he couldn't make it tonight, what his thoughts were. I'm going to give this to you, Stephanie. And basically, he was talking about walls out ground maintenance, merge IT, and merge finance departments. So that we could put into the minutes as well. And do we have...
Did you set a date?
Picking a date?
Yep, we're going to look at the date.
Is this Monday is Monday the best day? I'm surprised to see so many of actually everybody's here.
Begin budget in
Yep.
January. We do Tuesday, Wednesday, back to back.
With a possible Thursday. if we have snow.
With a snow date of Thursday as a backup. So,
How about the 29th? That's a Monday.
Monday the 29th, January 29th.
January 29th.
Works for me.
Can I ask a question, Mayor?
Absolutely.
We started this meeting at 7 o'clock. I mean, meetings, it just seems since before we were born, started at 7 o'clock. A few have gotten to the point where they realize we're not going home to eat dinner and then read the paper and come out to the meeting. So is there anybody here who would like to entertain starting a little earlier? 6:30? I mean, that's just a small little adjustment. I don't know about you guys.
We thought you were going to say bring pizza to the meeting.
You can take that up, you can take that up with the facilitator.
I, for one, would be in favor of 6 o'clock for sure.
What about
January.
I'm sorry, does that
It's a lot.
get home to
It
feed
is.
children?
Yes,
They
but
ate earlier.
It's either 4:30
There isn't anybody left.
is there anybody over there? I mean, you're all just staring at me like I don't know what I just said. Is anybody willing to start at 6:30?
Yes.
What? I can't hear you, Janet.
Yeah, 6:35.
Wendy?
yeah.
Leslie?
Yep.
Sarah? Olga? Tom?
Let's do it.
6:30, let's try it and see, because that means
6:30.
we have more time together.
All right.
Okay?
So 6:30
Okay
on the
with you, Mayor?
29th?
Yeah, 29th? Okay. You okay with it?
I got little kids. I'm old and I have little kids.
All right. Now, the minutes. Eric?
His name is spelled wrong. Eric's name is misspelled. His last name they put as.
Sorry. Oh, boy.
Okay.
I was gonna catch it there, Eric. I had to. I've seen that before.
Randy, is it okay as this body, do we have to do it separately, or can we all approve the minutes as a joint meeting?
So I
Okay.
could move to approve the minutes of the joint meeting of October 30, 2023?
Any discussion on these minutes with the amendment to the agenda or anything? And Alex?
And Chairwoman Fallenbach had presented that long list of things that we're already collaborating on, and I can't remember the list because it was long. and I can't remember
I have
them.
handwritten notes everywhere. If you'd like, I can formally type them up. I did some of them driving in the car to the last meeting, literally. So,
I just wondered if it should be a complete list
I
as
can
part of
formalize
these
it.
minutes, or in the
Well,
future.
but they're not part of the minutes.
There's some in
They-
there. There's quite a few in here.
There's
there's,
some.
I think you captured, I mean, there's a lot of them in there.
Yes,
Well,
they're
but
in the
not
minutes.
all, and you had said you had a list, and.
Did you read the list?
She did.
In that meeting?
I did read some of them,
some.
but I
Could
had
you,
more.
could you send the list
What
to
I think,
Stephanie? We
I
can add
think
it to the
that,
next
I
meeting.
think your point that a lot of them were captured in the minutes,
Yep.
but I think moving on forward, I think we should be identifying what we're doing now, because we may not, so I'll get you a list and I'll put, and we'll see what I'm missing and we'll get that to everybody.
Perfect.
So we're okay with the list as is in the minutes, and
Yep.
for future, we'll get the, okay, great, then I'm fine.
Any other discussion on the minutes?
Motion to adjourn.
Wait, Walter.
Who seconded
All
it?
those,
Calm down there, Bear.
we have a second?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Mr. Bear.
Mr. Bear, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstained just because I was not here.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. Walter,
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Meeting.